Hello, and welcome to this webinar presented by the Anna Maria Island Garden Club. I'm Loretta Estabrooks, and the presentation will be on native island landscaping. I should start with some background. We bought our house in 2010 and did some major renovations on it in 2015, which required digging out around the foundation and disconnecting our sprinklers. A few years later, we were ready to start working on the landscaping. We wanted to get rid of the lawn and look at a more environmentally friendly landscape, but our house is in an HOA, and at the time the homeowners land association had rules around lawns versus rocks or shell or sand. We waited until the homeowners got tired of the dead lawn and recognized the Florida-friendly landscape law that says that HOA covenants can't stop a homeowner from installing a Florida-friendly landscape. So here is the original landscaping. It's a weed-filled lawn. We have some traditional Florida bushes and shrubs, but in general, not very exciting. And this is now our current landscape with native and friendly, Florida-friendly plants, and you notice no lawn. So how did we get from the before picture to the after picture? We needed to decide what we wanted. We needed a vision. We needed to find somebody to do it by hiring a landscaper, deciding how much we had to spend, and when to do it. Finding the landscapers the time that they could do it, as well as is there a best season to plant. And then, of course, for after, how do we maintain it? We need to understand what the cost and ongoing commitments are. Do we want to continue using a landscape company, do it ourselves, or a combination? And then ultimately, when are we going to be able to just sit back and enjoy it? What was interesting is I actually found the paper that I had written out our vision that we shared with the different interviewers, with the different landscapers when we were doing interviewing. My goals, I wanted it to be inviting, natural looking, use native or Florida-friendly plants, eliminate our lawn to minimize water, fertilizer, and chemicals. Didn't want chemicals in our canals. Xeriscaping, so using either drip irrigation or no long-term irrigation if possible. Install rain barrels for watering. Incorporate as many of our current bushes that made sense, as well as trees and the brick walls. Wanted to meet our HOA requirements, as well as any local building and drainage requirements. We needed to address some drainage and erosion control concerns in the back of our house. I wanted to have even more privacy from our neighbors if possible. Of course, meet our budget requirements and be able to install in phases if we felt the cost was too great to handle all at once, and long-term be a low cost to maintain. Now, my husband's goals were slightly different, but we had to include those. His goals were he wanted it to look spectacular. He wanted a sculpted traditional or more formal look. So you can see already between my natural looking and his traditional formal, there's a disconnect. He was interested in having dramatic lighting. He likes the landscapes that are lit up at night. And he insisted on a landscape design, no plan written on the back of a napkin, which, considering the amount of effort and money we were going to be putting to that, made sense. So one of the first things I did is I went to the Natural Island Plant Project. You can see the website there, www.naturalislandplantproject.org. And on it, this is maintained by the Anna Maria Island Garden Club. There is a list of native and Florida-friendly plants that will do well on the island. So I actually printed up the list and handed it out to the different landscapers that we talked to. Here are some of the plants we were interested in and ones that we actually got to include in our design. Beach sunflower, orange Geiger tree, firebush, kunti, milkweed, and muhly grass. So we started looking for landscapers in 2018. We ended up using Jeff Gilchrist, as he was the best that in terms of meeting both of our philosophies. He was busy when we checked on his progress in January 2019. And because he ended up not having time to do the design, he hired an additional person in his firm, and they managed to put the design together in a month. So we had a landscape design, and this was what it was in February 2019. This is just a starting point. So it shows that around the walls that were in front of the house, this is the driveway in front of the house, and this is back to where the seawall is, that we put in planting beds. And currently this area here and this area here was covered with lawn, as well as the back area. So we wanted all that out in just a number of natural plantings instead. So we don't typically stay around in the summertime, and so we weren't able to get put on the schedule until October 2019, which ended up being delayed until November 2019 because of weather issues. So that is when we started, approximately a year after we started the whole process. The crews came in with heavy equipment to take out the old shrubbery and reshape the plant beds. Before this, we had sprayed weed and grass killer all around the current lawns. So this shows the side of the house where our air conditioners are located, and this is the back of the house. And here is the down from the seawall looking at the back of the house. You can see there's some old bushes along that wall. So the landscape company tore out the bushes, leaving moldy, dirt-covered walls. You can see them working on the taking out bushes there. There were the bushes before and afterwards. Not very attractive looking. So I ended up power washing, scraping, and painting. Here's after the first coat. And ended up painting these walls gray, leaving the thicker sections white. So that's one of the reasons we didn't want to take the wall out. It would be, it helped to retain the dirt, and it could be an attractive addition. So the next part was to create the beds. So you can see we pull out quite a ways from the wall, putting in new dirt to be able to plant the new plants, and we started getting a delivery of our plants. Here are some sea grapes and some areca palms and the Geiger tree. In addition, we did leave some of the bushes in place. That's porterweed there, and that's I think it's called blanket sage, and we left in the pygmy palms. Here in the back, they pulled all those bushes off the back wall. And here in the back of the house is where they're creating what we would call the fire pit area. I don't know if we'll have a fire pit there in the future, but at least it's a seated area in addition to the back deck and patio. So the first thing you do is you plant the trees. You plant the large items first. So we had 4 new palm trees going in. And then we installed the hardscape or the rocks. So here you can see the rocks in front of the newly painted existing wall. Here in the back is that area where they were creating the plant bed for the fire pit. This is a fire pit. This area ended up being a more formal looking area. We have hibiscus in here, which are not, they may be friendly to Florida, but not considered native plants, but they are spectacular looking. Here in this is where the bushes were that we pulled out, and we are installing 250 sand around the back and around the side so that we can walk all around the house if we need to. Before there were some bushes, etc., that got in the way. In addition, we put in 57 lime rock. This was used around the edges of the property and where there were drainage issues. Here you see where 3 stone steps were installed. This was a particularly steep area that we had drainage and erosion problems. And so here we have the some cocoa plum, the thatch palm, and some ice plants put in, as well as a sea grape up against above the wall. And here we have gaillardia, which is called blanket flower, which is a native and grows really well here and has spectacular flowers, and a blue agave. So here is the before picture at the beginning of November and the end in November 2019. As you can see, pretty big change. But here is even a year later in November 2020, and you can see how much growth. Let me go back to see the size of the plants there and the little rock in front. And you can barely see the rock with all the bushes and plants grown up, and that's only a year's time. So the plus about using native plants is that they grow well in this environment. Here's the back of the house where we had the bushes along the seawall, and after with the path and some podocarpus. Here was where the air conditioner was located, and that back area where we put in the fire pit. You can see the before and after there. And actually on the place where the air conditioner it's grown up and is mostly, you don't see it as you come around the corner as much as you used to. So we're finished, right? Everything's accomplished. Time to sit back and relax. Well, not quite. Approximately 6 months after we did our installation, we had some big rainstorms and our backyard started washing away. So we installed 3 drains, another couple yards of 57 lime rock. And I'd like to say all of our problems have been solved, and it has reduced the drainage issues, but there are still some drainage issues left that we're working on. So we did install lighting. It gives a much more dramatic look at night. I think it looks great. Plus, we appreciate the safety aspects of being able to see the walkways if you want to walk around the house at night, you know, from the driveway, if you had guests come that you just wanted to walk around the back. And I think it's safer to have a lit up, the outside of your house lit up at night. There were some hits and some misses on plant selection. As I said before, I really like the gaillardia. It grows well and actually reseeds itself. The palm trees, we had 4 palms put in, sable palms put in, and all of them ended up dying. We think from a dry spell when we were gone. But the landscaper, because it was less than a year, the landscaper replaced them all. So that was good. The ice plant that you see in the front here did well for a while, and then I think in the summer got a little bit too much water and started developed a fungus or something. We've replanted it and looked at taking it out of some of the areas that may be prone to more water. Also, I'm hoping that it doesn't. It's not getting as much water as it did initially to when we were establishing the plants. The Geiger tree, these are the orange blossoms, beautiful blossoms. The only problem with that is in an area where apparently it gets a lot of wind from any thunderstorm we have. And we've had a number of branches break off on it. The muhly grass is great, as well as kuntis. And the milkweed that we planted, you can see the little fluffy seeds. We had loads of monarch butterflies, so it's definitely attracting the insect life. So how did we do in our goals? Well, it is inviting, natural looking. We use native plants. About 80% of the plants in the property are on the list. We eliminated lawn. We went to drip irrigation. We did not install rain barrels. Found out that that's not something that any of the landscapers we talked to were interested in dealing with. We may go to Manatee County Extension. They do provide rain barrels or information about them. We did incorporate existing bushes, trees, and brick walls as much as possible. We met the HOA requirements. Actually, people from the neighborhood have come up and commented on how great it looks. The drainage issues are still a work in progress. So still working on that. Definitely increased the privacy from neighbors as it's grown up. In terms of meeting budget requirements, it was expensive, but we had a real estate person tell us to estimate how much you spend on landscaping, you should use about 10% of the current value of your house. So that can give you an idea of how much you should consider spending on your landscaping. And in terms of low cost to maintain, at least for the initial year, it wasn't. Our water costs went up dramatically because we were watering to establish the plants initially. Those have since come down. And then we are paying for landscaping company to come in twice a month to do trimming and any fertilizer that might be done or dealing with pests. And I think that's important, at least initially, when you put a landscape in, to use the people that put it in so that, one, they can replace plants if they have any problems, and two, they can help give you training if you want to do more on your own, because they know the plants and they know their requirements. In terms of meeting Jack's goal, yes, he thinks it's spectacular. It's not particularly traditional, but the spectacular overrides that. We put in the lighting, and we did have a landscape plan. So it's just some additional thoughts. A key to this is putting in the right plant at the right place. I have actually moved some plants that either seem to want a little bit more light or more shade, or they just don't do that well in our environment here. But in general, the landscaper did a good job at picking plants that would grow well in our garden area. It's going to take more time. It definitely took. We didn't expect it to be a year from the time we started interviewing landscapers until it was installed, and it was more expensive than we initially expected, but still within reasonable range. There's no such thing as a maintenance-free landscape. Even if you put in whatever you put in is going to need something if you don't want it to look like a jungle out of control. We just definitely discovered the importance of having a reputable landscaper who will guarantee their plants for a year, and he's been wonderful doing that. Just remember, there will always be more to do, so relax and enjoy the journey. So I want to thank you for joining us for this webinar. If you are interested in other Anna Maria Garden Club webinars, you can find them on our YouTube channel. Thank you.